Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia Treen, and welcome to my channel.
Today, we'll be making this classic bear. I used a blend of wool and rayon felt in peat moss, but the pattern will work up beautifully in whatever color you choose. If you're new to hand sewing with felt, you might like to check out my basic hand stitching techniques. I'll link that video at the end of this tutorial. You'll need wool or wool blend felt, matching embroidery floss, a sewing needle and long darner, pipe cleaners to wire the limbs, wool stuffing and a stuffing tool, 3mm eye beads, tacky glue, and a permanent fine liner pen. I also recommend some small scissors, wire cutters, and needle nose pliers. I also used these optional tools as well: a felting needle for indenting the neck stuffing, and an Inktense permanent watercolor pencil in a deep brown for shading the nose. The bear can be completed without them, but they're great to have on hand. Okay, let's get started. Each leg and arm is made from 2 felt pieces whip-stitched together without turning. On these pieces, all your stitching will be visible. This leg piece is partially stitched, with an opening at the back to add pipe cleaner and stuffing. For bulkier cotton chenille pipe cleaner, use 2 thicknesses, and for synthetic chenille, use 3. Whatever variety you choose, bind each leg's cluster together at either end. Lay the thread parallel to the pipe cleaners, then wrap back over it, binding the cut ends as you do. Then tie off with a square knot. Now let's bend them to fit inside the legs. It's the same process for cotton and for synthetic. Bend one end over. This fold will protect the toe from the cut wire ends. Match the bent end with the toe, then fold up at the center of the ankle. At the hip, bend forward, bringing the opposite bound end to the front of the ankle. Now round the fold to create an opening for the eventual stitching on of the legs. Use your pliers to insert the folded pipe cleaner. Then add a bit of stuffing to fill out the foot and leg cavity. After stuffing, whip stitch close the back of the legs. To wire the arms, cut a 2-inch long piece of chipboard and mark its center. Then fold the pipe cleaner around the card, making crisp folds and matching the cut ends to the center line. For cotton pipe cleaner, use 2 lengths, and as before, 3 for synthetic. Use 2 wonder clips to hold the pieces together. Then bind the center as you did with the ends of the leg pipe cleaners. Sometimes I like to add magnets into the paws of my animals, so afterwards they can hold on to things. This is completely optional. Magnets are not an appropriate choice if young children will enjoy the bear. If it's for display only, though, they can be a fun addition. When adding magnets, make sure the polarization works. To ensure this, use Zap Gel glue to attach the first magnet. Then connect the second to the first and glue its available side to the end of the opposite pipe cleaner bundle. Bend the pipe cleaner bundles to match the curve of the arms. The arms I have here are whip stitched like the legs were, with their back sides open. Insert the pipe cleaner and close their back sides with a whip stitch. Then, just before you close up, add stuffing to fill the arm cavity. If you've added magnets, be sure to stuff only the back sides of the arms to avoid weakening the magnetic pull. Then knot off and hide your knot. And repeat on the other arm. So now we have our arms and legs complete, and we are ready to start on the body. This piece is the front body, and this is the back. The darts at the bottom help to create a full belly and backside. And the center back dart makes the back body dip in, a bit like a bean shape. Fold each dart and whip stitch from the base of the V to the seam edge. Then, to secure the seam end, make a few stitches on top of each other. Slip the needle below the surface of the felt, moving it back from the edge. Then finish with an ending knot. Then repeat for the 3 remaining bottom darts and the back center dart. Here I've finished stitching the darts, and with right sides together, basted the front and back body, leaving a hole for turning and stuffing between the bottom darts. Basting ensures well-matched edges for these two pieces, which have the same circumference but different widths. Thread your needle with a single strand of floss and knot one end. After stitching, you'll turn the body, so leave the starting knot on the stitching side. To secure the intersection of the front and back darts, make 2 to 3 whip stitches on top of each other just before the bottom dart. Then whip stitch around the circumference, finishing just beyond the opposite dart, making 3 securing stitches again, and the ending knot on the stitching side. Remove the basting and turn the body with a pair of needle nose pliers. Carefully pull through to avoid stretching the hole. Then use your fingers to roll out the seam. Fill the body with stuffing, using the tool of your choice. The blunt end of a bamboo skewer, or the pronged end of a stuffing fork. Wool stuffing is a joy to work with and not slippery like its synthetic cousins. I find it to be the best choice for making small stuffed animals. Fill the body with small pinches of fiber rather than over large ones, which can be hard to control and run the risk of stretching the opening. Stuff the body firmly, accentuating the lower portion to fill out and shape the backside and belly. If you find any dimples or soft spots, snip into the wool filling and create a channel for more stuffing. Thread your needle with a 2-strand length of floss and knot one end. Hide the knot inside the edge and use a baseball stitch to close up. I love how this stitch creates a strong, flat seam from the outside. To work the stitch, scoop one side of the seam edge from outside to inside. Then pull the thread through loosely and repeat on the opposite side. Make 2 to 3 stitches, then tighten the seam before moving on to your next stitch. Continue alternating sides to complete the seam. Then knot off and hide your knot by popping it through the exit hole behind. Sometimes after closing, the body might look a bit lopsided. To balance its shape, squeeze it in a few different directions, redistributing the stuffing inside. You can also accentuate the curvature of the back dart by pushing inward. To assemble the head, lay the side head pieces nose to nose. This ensures you make a right and a left side head when stitching the darts. Like the body, we'll turn the head right side out after stitching. So starting and ending knots on the darts can be left on the stitching side. Lay the side head pieces together with their right sides facing. Then stitch the center seam with a single strand of floss. Begin under the chin, whip stitching around the nose and beyond the top head dart, stopping about halfway down the back curve of the head. Turn the head right side out and finish whip stitching the back curve on the outside. You can try a baseball stitch here, but that closure method works better on stuffed objects. With empty shapes, the edges tend to come together unevenly. Begin stuffing the head at the nose. Stuff with small pinches, filling the front of the face, then building up the central core. If you'd like more detailed instruction on stuffing my felt animals, I've made a tutorial for that as well, and I've linked it in the post for you. As the head fills, its shape will widen from side to side. To achieve the final plump form, the head needs to be stuffed firmly, so keep an eye on your seam strength throughout the process. To avoid any confusion, I wanted to share a quick note about the original sample shown in the clips ahead. Its magnetic head connection was created for stop animation shorts and is not demonstrated in this tutorial. You'll probably notice that its underside is finished with felt, whereas the in-progress head has exposed stuffing here. Again, magnets are never appropriate for young children or in homes where dogs might accidentally chew something you've made. Okay, let's get back to it. You can see here that this head is coming along nicely, but from side to side it's narrower than my sample. To match them, I took its measurement by inserting a long darner through the head and flagging the diameter with tape. My original width was just proud of 1.5 inches, so I'll continue adding a bit more stuffing. When you can no longer add fiber easily, use the scissor channel technique to create additional space in the central core and to correct any soft spots. Just like we did on the body, you can redistribute stuffing and adjust the final shape by squishing the head. Front to back will make it wider, and side to side longer and narrower. Also on the pattern, you'll see that the brow has a bit of a ridge. I can define that now by channeling up to add some stuffing there. Now I'll use a felting needle to indent the stuffing so the head can rest over and pivot on the body. If you don't have a felting needle handy, or if you've never used one, you can do without, but you may need to press the head down as you attach it. Now let's attach the legs, head, and arms. For extra strength, coat a 3-strand length of floss with tailor's wax. Then remove excess with your fingernails. Thread a long darner and knot one end. Insert the needle on the side seam at the dart's height. Then pass through to the opposite side seam, exiting at the same height. Pliers help pull the needle through. Don't worry about hiding the knot. The leg will cover it. Pass the needle back to the opposite side seam and repeat another back and forth stitch, this time pulling in to create a dimple. Then stitch on the first leg, orienting its foot to the front of the body. Stitch through and attach the second leg. Then pass back and forth through the legs and body a few times to secure them. Knot off and hide your knot. The head can be attached in many positions, looking down, up, or to either side. And a long pin helps to hold it in place for stitching. If the neck hole stretched during stuffing and it sits lower than you want, correct it with a tightly spaced running stitch around the neck opening before attaching it. Continue with the waxed leg thread if you have enough, or make a new 3-ply waxed length. For this seam, use a blind stitch. Make your stitches parallel to the neck hole, alternating between the head and body with each forward stitch. I like to make 2 passes around for a secure connection. Then knot off and hide your knot. Attach the arms about 1 centimeter down from the head seam. Stitch them on through the body as the legs were, but without creating a dimple first. If you've added magnets into the paws, make sure to stitch them on in the correct orientation. After stitching back and forth through the arms and body a few times for strength, knot off and hide your knot. With the body assembled, it's time to attach the eyes. Mark them with pins to find the placement you like. These are 1 inch apart and situated below the brow ridge at the valley where the snout and head transition. Measure out from the center seam a 1/2 inch on either side. Partially pull out each pin and spiral it around to create a visible hole. Then enlarge it with the point of a skewer, being careful not to go too far or the entire eye might slip through. Miyuki drop beads vary slightly in size, so I like to sort through for a matching set. Thread a long darner with a 2-strand length of body matching floss and knot one end. If you have tailor's wax, it can be helpful here again for strength. Insert the needle through the eye hole, exiting at the back of the head. Then, pass the needle through its exit hole and out the front through the eye hole, without catching any felt as you do. This can sometimes take a few tries. By doing this, the thread disappears beneath the surface of the back head without creating a dimple. Thread the first eye onto the needle and pass it through again to the back. There's no need to follow the exact path you used before. Check the amount that the eye protrudes from the surface. If it looks too beady, enlarge the hole with your skewer so it sinks further into the head. Pass through the front again, catch the back of the eye, then stitch through to the back, knot off, and hide the knot. If your exit holes are visible, conceal them with a few scratches to the surface. Now I'll just thread my needle and repeat on the other side. You can also minimize seams with surface scratching. Just crosshatch over them with a sturdy pin. Give the area a light spritz with hairspray and iron the surface smooth. I've made the mouth and brows simple and minimal using a .005 sepia micron pen. I like to experiment with new mediums, so for the nose, I tried a Derwent Inktense watercolor pencil. By dipping its tip in water, I could draw on a beautiful deep shade of brown. These pencils say they are permanent once dry, although I haven't taken him for a dip, so I can't be sure. Feel free to experiment with other permanent pens you might already have on hand, but always do so on scrap fabric first, so you know what to expect. The ears are attached with a quick dry white glue, like fast grab tacky glue, and the two little tabs fold frontward and backward. I placed each ear just forward of the top head darts. There's really no right place to put them, so don't worry too much about that. Varying orientations will create different expressions. But if you want to measure and recreate what I have here, let's take a look. Now, I know I've switched back and forth between inches and metric today, but metric is a bit more precise, and I always have both rulers close at hand. It looks like the fold of the front tab is 4 millimeters forward of the dart, and the center of the ear between the tabs is 4 millimeters down from the dart's bottom. For another visual reference, here's my original from a few angles again. Now let's glue the ears on. For precision, I apply it with a toothpick. I have my iron heating up so I can flatten the tab connections and dry the glue quickly. It's quite thick, which I like, so it won't soak through. If you don't have an iron handy, you can leave the pins in and let it dry naturally, saving pressing for later. Either way, fast grab glue dries quickly. I do love the iron for this, as it smooths and disguises the ear connection so nicely. And you can scratch out the pinholes here as we did when attaching the eyes. Once you have a bear complete, you might like to accessorize them. So I have a few videos ready to get you started. How about this bumblebee and bee-skep pincushion? Here you can see I've added a magnet and wire so bear and bee can stay connected. And this jar is a great place to stash some snacks. Honey, cookies, pickles, whatever you like. The pattern and tutorial show you how to make a glossy honey surface or a fitted lid. Both tutorials are available here on my channel, and the patterns are public and downloadable from my Patreon collection. I've loaded this post with links to everything I mentioned, but if you have any questions, I'll get back to you in the comments as soon as I can. And if your bear needs a companion, I'm on that too. So stay tuned for more classic felt friends and tutorials to come. If you head over to the Collections tab in my Patreon, you can see who awaits you already. Okay, folks, that's it for today. Stay tuned for more felt stitching techniques and tutorials. If you like this video, you know what to do and how to follow. If you'd like to visit my Etsy shop, join my Patreon group, or support my tutorials with a one-time tip on Buy Me a Coffee, you'll find links to those and all my socials in the post via my Linktree. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy stitching.